Deli chicken tenders with
And
the honey mustard.
look, and that motherfucker tell you right now, I trusted them so much with my life, I threw the keys to them.
What the bit? No, hold up. What you used to get at fucking Arby's? That one time we went there, they put mayonnaise on it.
Oh, he put mayonnaise on my shit, bitch. Bro, that nigga, he telling the truth.
That nigga.
Tell this fucking thing, bro.
He wanted the Arby's. He said, let me get a number 6. He said, a number 6, no mayonnaise.
No mayonnaise.
That bitch brought it back to the fucking room. Fuck, bruh. These bitches done put fucking mayonnaise on my shit, fucking bruh.
Look,
Say, yawn.
Mac, that happened last night.
Last night,
He went to
bitch.
Five Guys. He said they had his
Damn,
sandwich.
man,
Number
mine went all the way
He said I went
back.
all the way back and cussed him out.
Fuck him.
Yo,
I said, no
all right,
mayonnaise.
and before we close out, because you talking about taking some shit back, you gotta tell Bird's story about Popeyes on fucking Eggman. Chicken tenders. Go ahead, man.
Hold up, but you gotta kind of give him a job.
Alright, cause you called me from the desert. I was in the desert, nigga. Nigga called me.
The thoughts that go through my head just from mistakes I've made, learning from other people's mistakes, listening to other people talk about communication, communication between man and woman, communication just between humans in general, and wanting to feel seen, heard, and loved.
Romy Mac.
Common issue you see encountered in a workplace? More than likely communication and inability of knowing how to talk to people. Really, I believe that a lot of issues that go on in the workplace is just miscommunication, assumptions, not going up and asking the person directly, is that what they meant by that, or withholding information. When you're in a leadership position, that might be beneficial to those that work for you. Is commonly what I see to be like a main issue in workplaces, at least just from my experience of working together. And then like gossip, allowing gossip to turn from a complaint, a disagreement, almost bringing your ego into the job versus keeping it about work and taking it personal when someone does something. Because when you took the job, you didn't take the job based off of people knowing who you were before here. So anything someone says has nothing to do with you per se. I mean, there are people that do project their insecurities onto others at the job, and it gets into gossip, and they want you to side with them and want you to be on them about how they feel about this person. But my relationship with that person is not your relationship with that person. So it's like learning to not form they don't form gossip teams. Form a team at work. You want to have camaraderie, you want to have chemistry in order to get the job done. But as far as like when you get into that gossip shit, just because you may not agree with what the boss told you to do, but they are the boss, they're doing the best that they know how to do said job. Now, the issue is when your leadership is not treating you as if you're human. And when you don't treat people as human, they tend to feel like they're not appreciated. And when they don't feel appreciated, they start looking around, and they're not going to perform at their best level that they possibly can. And again, we don't know each other personally. Initially, when you take the job, you just work together. And the objective of working together is getting the job done. That's it. It's not like I don't like her because she wore red shoes, or, I don't fuck with him because he liked the Redskins, or whatever, whatever thing you can come up with to justify not being social or human with someone has nothing to do with that shit. Like, we don't take these jobs that we go to and get signed on to do a job for the simple fact that I personally have a vendetta against you. I don't know you. And it's about work. Literally, you come there to work. That's it. Once them 10 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, whatever your shift is, it's over. That's it. The only reason I know you is because of this job. Now, don't get me wrong. There's times where we've taken jobs and we've developed friendships and stuff like that, and that's all well and good. But as far as taking shit personal and making shit about you when you're being tasked to do something, or somebody's delivery, you know what I'm saying? Like, certain bosses, they have certain deliveries that may come off almost a bit assertive, a bit stern, sometimes even rude. But don't take that personal. That has nothing to do with you. There's nothing to do with you. It's more so what they're going through. Well, it's not necessarily fair, but it's essentially what they're going through, what they're projecting, or what they believe is like the best way of getting their job done. And that's really what it's all about, because their ass is on the line. And if you can see it from that perspective, maybe you won't take things as personal. And if you knew how much people were projecting, you definitely wouldn't take things personal when you're dealing with them, especially in a in a workplace situation. I'm sure there's a lot of people, depending on their job, they really don't fuck with this person over here. You don't know what that person is going through. You have no idea what they're dealing with, and truth be told, it has nothing to do with you. It's nothing to do with you. And they very well could be projecting pain out. Not necessarily right, moral, really not morally right, not moral. Break down the two words or put them together. Either way, it has nothing to do with you. But I believe that what I've seen to be like the biggest issue is just communication. Communication and delivery. Delivery is one thing, and not knowing how to work together as a team, and that goes from effort from everybody. Yeah, there's one thing of having the position. That's right, you got a boss, but everybody else got to play their part too. And if they don't do their part, if we're not doing our part as subordinates, or, you know what I'm saying, and the boss isn't doing their part as the boss, then the whole thing falters. But if somehow we can set aside our egos, we can just realize what the objective is, focus on why we're here, we can get this thing done, and that's it. All right, what you need me to do? Bam, okay. Tell me what you need, I'm gonna go out and do it. All right, that's really all work is. Somebody's telling you to do something, you go out and do it to the best of your ability. And if you're not doing it up to snuff, then they gotta find somebody else to do it. But when you say that person talked to me that way because whatever it is, and I'm not saying that there are not situations where race, it might be an issue, gender might be an issue especially like for women in the workplace, depending on who they're working for. But it's understanding that nothing anyone does is about you, and of course going to the proper places and channels that you can go to rectify the situation if need be. If it gets too extreme to where you're not able to do your job because the boss does not fuck with you, because he doesn't like to work with women, or because you're black, because you're Asian, because you're white, whatever it is, you know what I'm saying, use the proper channels to rectify the situation if it gets to an extreme level. But ultimately, just understanding that we are all there to just get the job done. What is the objective? What's your job? All right, this is what we have to do. This is where I need you in on it. So it's just communication. All right, just tell me what you need so that I can provide that to the best of my ability, which is in my job description. Now, as far as trying to get me to do something that's outside of my job description, and you're trying to hold me accountable for that, that's where we have to draw a line. And that's why they have job listings and they show what it is that I'm to do. But if I take a job and then you're telling me that I must do another person's job besides my own job, am I going to get paid for their job too? Is the question that comes to, that tends to come to mind. But all in all, work is just work, yo. That's it, man. Work is just simply work. How do you contribute to your workplace? What is it that you can bring? What person are you becoming on the job? Is the question. And just understanding to not take none of that shit personal. Nothing is about you. You are not that important, honestly. We are really not that important in the sense where everything that someone does is about us. You know what I mean? They're over there laughing, they talking about me. Probably, you know what? They might be laughing at your ass, but it has nothing to do. It's not personally about you. It's about what they deem to be funny. But your response to that, trying to figure out what the fuck they're laughing at, is a sign of your insecurity and how you feel about yourself. And I know for sure I'd lived that shit for a long time. What y'all talking about? Y'all talking about me, my early 20s and shit, being in airfield management, or, in the Air Force and all that stuff, is just trying to figure out, trying not to be the one they're laughing at because it's a trigger from childhood. But they ain't responsible because you're not able to take a joke or what have you. Now, as far as bullying goes, if you're not able to do your job because said people are making jokes and then they're not allowing you to do your job, that's a whole other ball game, which you have to use the proper channels to go ahead and rectify the situation. As far as, learning to stand up for oneself. And some of us were never really taught that. We're never taught to stand up when we would go through bullshit in life, let alone at work. So we just take the shit. But you're human. You are human. And because you're human, you can speak up and be able to voice said situation with HR, with who, like if you have an effective leadership, you're able to go to them and be like, listen, this is what's going on, and I'm not able to, work at my best capacity for the job with this shit going on. But that's just, that's just something to kind of think about when it comes to, situations at the job. So I really believe it's communication, ultimately. Communication, I find to be probably one of the things that can be worked on, and it can make or break a work group, depending on how well the leadership communicates, and then how well the subordinates that have to work together, how well they communicate. So it's learning to have that communication, work to the best of your ability so that you can achieve the goal of doing the job. But that's what I believe is a common issue that goes on in the workplace. What are your thoughts about women who want you to read their mind in relationships? Okay, so I see this in many lenses. I'll talk about the obvious ones as far as like, you think I can read what the fuck you got in your mind. That's not going to happen. But what I found to be pretty effective, just in communication, regardless if it's a woman that wants you to read your mind, a man trying to get you to read his mind, is when you're in conversation, you are indirectly getting information, right? And you're trying to learn how to love this person to the best of your ability, and which your insecurities, which your current ability to love can do at that said point in time. So with that being said, as far as reading a woman's mind is, yeah, I'm gonna call it, say that's exactly what's on a woman's mind. You're not gonna have that 9 times out of 10. However, what you can do is understand what it means to take lead. That's what I'm saying. Like in a relationship, that's why I feel like it's no point for a woman to be in a relationship with a man if she's going to be the one to lead. And Otherwise, she's grooming a son to be had. But what I'm saying is like in relationships, in friendships, workships, situationships, whatever the fuck you want to call it, learn how to love that person. If you intend to, for as long as you intend to do so, because not everybody's meant to be in your life for the long run. And there's some people there for seasons, and then but everybody's meant to teach you something. You were put there for a reason. Everything, it's all there. Everything happens for you. Nothing happens to you. Okay. So when it comes to just learning to listen, what that does is give you information to where you can make a said decision without having to ask her for it, something about it. I like to ask questions, in more than likely through text or on the phone or something like that, prior to creating said date, said moment, said adventure, whatever you want to call it. My thing is to inquire as much information about the person so that you can execute on whatever that moment's going to be, whatever that date's going to be. Like, just listen well, right? Hell, even take notes if you have to. So what I'm saying is learning how to understand someone and what it is that they have interest for. Because if you learn what they have interest for, it makes it easier for you to come up with creativity when it comes to set date, set moment, whatever it is. Like for those who are married and stuff like that, like your anniversary and all that shit, learning how to love that person and having them give you tools to make that moment something. You want someone to use the term special. I don't necessarily like the term special. I just call it being valued. You know what I mean? To me, special is more along the lines of entitlement, and I do my best to try to avoid said entitlement. And it's tough. And it's tough because even me, in my own mind, there comes a form of like entitlement, and I try to learn to manage that shit. I do my best to manage that shit in my head so that I do not lean towards being entitled. Because again, I stand by the fact that, with no expectations, no entitlement, no ego, I'm able to love in a way that doesn't make me project myself onto that person, my insecurities onto that person, for them to try to live up to this idea I have of them in my head. And that goes back to the whole thing of reading somebody's mind. I don't have the script that you have in your head, what you thought I was going to do, what you thought I was going to say. So to assume that I knew this or whatever, that's poor communication. And it can also live along the lines of like manipulation and stuff like that. There are some women, I say people, but commonly in this situation, I'll say like women, where they just, you should have known that I wanted this. You should have, what you could have done is communicated to me prior to this that you wanted this thing done. You know what I'm saying? Like for those people that are like, I don't want a surprise party. I don't want a surprise party. I don't want anything. I don't want anybody to do anything for my birthday. And then they do it. And then they don't do it for their birthday. And then they're upset. That's manipulation to me. I believe that's manipulation. You see it a lot of times on like TV shows and shit where it's like, I don't want anything done. It's like an episode of Family Matters where Carl was like, I don't want anything done for my birthday. And then sure enough, his birthday comes, no one does anything, and then he throws a fucking tantrum and shit. It's TV, of course, and it's, embellished a little bit as far as the situation goes. But I know that we've seen people, I definitely know that I did that for attention seeking in my lifetime, to where I said I didn't want something when I clearly wanted it. How is that person supposed to know what the fuck I really mean if I'm alluding to the fact that I do not want this? I think a lot of us can do that, especially like with love, man. It's like we carry ourselves in a way that seems as if we do not want the very thing that we felt we've desired most of our lives. You know what I'm saying? Carry ourselves in a way that is very unloving, when clearly that's the reason why you're acting the way that you You are, because you believe that you don't have that love and you feel entitled to that love, but you're carrying yourself in a way that is very unlovable. And that other person's supposed to just know. They're supposed to know that you need this love. No, that's really not how it goes, man. And I said, I'm certainly guilty of such, you know what I mean? And throughout my life, I know for sure I've done such. But the funny thing is that all the love that we need, we already have. That's number one. That's understanding that. The love we need, we already have. The love we want is a whole other ballgame. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things that you have control over. I have no control over the love that somebody else gives me. The only thing I can do is be appreciative for what the love they give. If I'm like, no, they could have gave me more love than that, there goes entitlement and expectations, and then of course like ego. But I'm to believe that the love that they're giving, this is the best they can do right now. And sometimes my ego don't want to hear that shit. I'm sure other people feel the same. You know what I mean? It's like, no, they could love more than that. I'm doing this effort and all this shit. They might not have that in them. Honestly, they very well may not have that in them. But there's that mind reading shit, you know, believing that they knew what I wanted. They knew exactly what I wanted when I was asking for love without saying shit. Retarded ass. I'm thinking we understand what the fuck you talking about without communicating that. And direct communication to me is the best form of doing so. Now, where I come on another lens with that, as far as like, I think I said in the beginning of this, is about a man to take lead, right? And then being able to take said information, which you get in conversation, to be able to create something. Because that, I believe that just shows effort and that ability, you know what I'm saying, to do so. It's something that I consider to be understood, but might not be able to understand by some, you know what I'm saying? It's like, don't have a woman to communicate to you directly everything, but being able in conversation as you're creating, trying to come up with different dates, different adventures, different things to bring you two closer together, because you're leading, you're taking part in this. This is part of courtship and stuff like that, courting a woman and even continuing to date once you're married, or once you're in a committed relationship, once you've decided to date someone, continuously, you know, learning how to date them, learning how to love them in a sense, but asking those questions. But when it comes time to making said date, you're not asking. You're saying, all right, this is where I want to take you. This is what I want you to wear for this particular outing. This is what I would like for you to bring for this particular outing. You're leading, you know what I'm saying? And any woman that really has genuine burning desire for you is going to love that shit. Pussy might even get wet off that shit. But if you're dating someone and you're gonna find this out, if they're just so used to leading and they don't want anybody to tell them what the fuck to do, they might give you some backlash for saying, don't nobody tell me what to do. And that is a sign for you to walk the fuck away, because she's not able to be led. And just understanding that, you know what I mean? But for those who really want to set that up, you know what I'm saying, so that a woman can feel valued, a woman can feel appreciated for her efforts and what she does already, whether that be with her kids, whether that be at work, whether just in life, might be in that personality that people like to come to. Now there is a place, a space where she can go to, and she don't have to worry about shit. And that's what I believe men that want to operate in a masculine create for a woman. Where you gotta help me out with this mind reading shit is like in conversation, in text. I hold that responsibility on the man to, you know, inquire about certain things. But you want to continue to learn how to love said person, not asking yes or no questions as much as possible. I mean, there are some questions that might require a yes or no to it, but as far as asking questions that allows a woman to expound on what that particular thing is and what she would want from that, so that you can create said adventure like later on. The thoughts that go through my head just from from mistakes I've made, learning from other people's mistakes, listening to other people talk about communication, communication between man and woman, communication just between humans in general, and wanting to feel seen, heard, and loved. And ultimately that's the objective. There's just levels to this shit. And in dating, especially if you're trying to portray yourself as a masculine man, you have to allow a woman, you work at allowing a woman to feel seen, heard, and loved in her feminine, you know what I'm saying? Or seen, heard, and loved the way she feels comfortable showing her feminine even more. And yeah, so that's honestly what my thoughts on that whole thing as far as like mind reading goes. I'm not able to read your mind, but I do understand about taking initiative and effort as far as like creating said thing instead of you doing that. Like a woman that tends to create all the vacations for her family and she's with she's married and all this shit. I get it. What that does is again just show effort. It shows that you want to be a part of this whole thing and just understanding what that means. Now, keep in mind for some of you that you may not have ever been shown that. And prior to getting to you did not know these things. Now, is that your responsibility? No. But just understand if you want to be with that person, they can learn, but you have to allow them space to learn. And commonly, a lot of people don't want to wait for you to figure that shit out, especially if you're a man. You know what I'm saying? As far as like knowing how to lead. No, I'm not giving up that leadership now because you've shown me that you don't know how to do it and things must be right. All of that shit, you know what I'm saying? But that's for a whole nother story. But that's my thoughts on women who expect men to read their minds. What company gets the most of my money monthly? I would have to say Amazon. Me and Amazon have a love-hate relationship because there are times where you order stuff from Amazon, it doesn't get there, you get there, it's not the package that you wanted. But to their defense, sometimes they'll let you keep the shit. And it's an integrity situation at that point. I remember there was some weightlifting gloves I ordered one time back in Miami. And I was like, they never came through. And then they sent me an actual pair, another pair that I ordered. And then that one from before came back and they were just like, just keep that shit. And I was like, you know what I mean? How much money do you have where you can just be like, keep that shit? But the company that gets the most of my money on a monthly basis is certainly Amazon. What's more important to you, chemistry or compatibility? In a perfect world, both, right? Both is very much that we desire to have, and almost it makes things run a hell of a lot smoother when you have that. But in real life, in reality, there are people you're going to come across that you have more chemistry with them versus compatibility. You know what I mean? And I'll explain that. Why a lot of times, like, especially from a sexual standpoint, you'll have sexual chemistry with somebody, but y'all can't stand one another. You can't stand to be in the same room with one another unless it involves that intimacy. Now, that necessarily could be toxic, and as I've said before on the show, the best sex to have a lot of times is toxic sex, and which is like when you have that situation, why you keep talking about her, why you keep fucking with her, I don't know, man. You know, but we just keep going at it. Be like, girl, I don't understand why you still talking to him. You don't understand. but with that being said, chemistry, I believe there are people that you come across, let's say for me, there are women that I've come across where we've had chemistry from a sexual standpoint, but as far as compatibility, whether it means she wanted to operate more in her masculine than in her feminine, as far as a long-term standpoint, that won't work. We're going to clash. And it's like seeing things in the long run scheme of that, where if I know that I intend to operate in my masculine, I intend to try to lead, I attempt to lead this thing to the best of my ability. And it's not saying I will not make mistakes along the way, but if we're not going to be able to do this 2 quarterback shit. We're not going to do, both of us will not be president. We both will not be the CEO of the, there's not going to be co-CEO shit. No, there is a leader and then there's a follower. One of us is going to lead, the other must coincide with what that person is doing. Otherwise, you got too many chiefs, not enough Indian situation. So I believe that compatibility, man, you sit back and you think that not everybody's meant to be with you for the long run, man. And it's a tough pill to swallow at times, because compatibility is something that sometimes becomes natural. There are times where effort is must be taken into having said thing. But when you have a person that is on their programming, they are hell-bent on their programming, and they refuse to submit to leadership, not to slavery or anything like that, but understanding what it means to lead. So yeah, submission to some that do not want to submit to leadership. You know what I mean? And because they believe it's like submitting is like slavery and shit like that. Well, let's look at this from another standpoint, right? If let's say you as a woman, right? Let's say that I'm talking to the woman who does not want to submit to a man. All right, you have children, right? Let's say more than likely at our age, close to 40 and up, or whatever. You have kids, obviously, and some kids might be grown, they might be teenagers at this point, or it might just you got kids in general. You're responsible for taking care of these kids, but these kids don't listen to what you have to say. They do not follow what you share to give them in guidance, what you feel is best for them, because you are responsible for them. You are accountable for them, but they're going to do whatever the fuck they want to do, regardless of the fact. Does that seem logical to you? You know what I mean? But I want you to think about how many men decided to marry a woman who says she gonna do what the fuck she gonna do anyway. You know what I mean? Like, how is a man supposed to benefit from that situation? Help me understand that. In the sense of becoming a married man. You know what I mean? I'm going to be responsible for you, but you don't do anything I'm asking you to do, not because I don't want you to have your fun, but more so because I am taking care of you. I am going to look after you. When you love something, you look after it. You know what I mean? But there are some that really do not, because they're so caught up in their own minds and own heads that they do not want to be told what to do. And it's a responsibility one must take, and you're not able to carry yourself like other ways, like as far as like being funny all the goddamn time. You know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. Don't be so stoic that you're not able to have like some laughter to you. But understanding that you have to, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to take yourself seriously. As you know, I'm speaking on this as a man who wants to lead. So how do you anticipate a woman, the kids, whoever following you if you don't take yourself seriously, and that's what I'm talking about, like to the compatibility standpoint, where how are you going to be compatible with somebody that does not trust you to lead? How are you going to be compatible with when clearly that's what you want to do, that's what you would like to do in this situation for love, whatever you want to call it, dating, and being able to cover said woman and what she brings with that. You know what I'm saying? Like, how am I going to look out for you if you're going to do whatever the fuck you want to do? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that's a recipe for disaster. It is a train wreck, is what they call it in the manosphere. It is a fucking train wreck to go in a situation to where whatever I say does not matter, but I'm supposed to be responsible for when you fuck up. No, that's a recipe for disaster, and no man worth his time and understands his value is going to do that. So it's just like understanding that everyone is not in position of being a wife. Regardless, they might want the title, they might want to be one, but they don't carry themselves in a way in which a wife is to carry herself if she's trying to get a husband. You know what I mean? And the same for that as a man. If you are going to be a husband, if you're going to lead a flock, if you're going to lead your tribe, how are you going to do so when you do not carry yourself in a way that does such? You don't have your own car. You don't have, you know what I'm saying? Like, you don't have your own money. You still live with your parents. Like, how are you going to lead a family? And that's no knock at people that do it. I don't want that to be like judgment by any means. But what I'm saying is, how are you going to anticipate getting this value, this caliber of a woman, when you do not put yourself in a position to receive such? And that goes for the same thing with women. How are you going to anticipate getting this man that's going to just look after you and take care of you, but you're not carrying yourself in a means where you trust men to lead, where you operate in your feminine energy? Because a man on his purpose, a man that's about building things, building up his life, he's not going to take on a relationship with another man unless he is into men. And again, that's no judgment or anything like that. But if you operate like that of a man, there's going to be clashing. And I'm not saying that a woman doesn't come into your life and she challenges you, but there is very much so a difference that there's a difference in a woman coming into your life, operating her feminine energy as well, and challenging you. Then there's also that one that wants to act like, very much aggressive in a sense of challenging you, like challenging your ability to lead and all that shit. That's a headache. That's a headache. And so a lot of times that's where I see the lack of compatibility in that sense, because I don't want to be with someone who operates like there's already a space for that. There's already a space for masculine. Here's a space for feminine energy for you, and it'll be safe enough to do so. I'm going to do everything in my power to ensure that you feel safe enough to do that. I will not, I'm not going to tear you down for doing so. None of that shit. You have to understand this shit. And it's scary. It's scary because if you've never dated that, you don't know, to trust it, because you've been fucked over so many times. I totally understand that, man. But after a while, you don't wise up, you don't see it, then understand the feminine will win. As far as being with a man who wants to operate as masculine, the feminine is going to win. The masculine is not. It will not happen. It's not going to happen. So I look at like the chemistry, because you can have chemistry with something you can have sexual chemistry with a woman, and she very well might operate in her masculine, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you guys might be compatible. You know what I mean? And that's the kicker there. You know what I mean? It's a kicker. It's like, well, I was good enough for this, but not good enough for that. No, let's not break it down to a whole thing of good enough, because I don't believe that's the case. And not in all, I won't speak for all men, because some men that very well might be their hook and thing to do as far as like, all right, she can do this, but I'm not gonna marry that, you know, type thing. But what I'm saying is like, if I know that you operate like this, tell me how does that work from a long-term standpoint as far as us being together when you're going to challenge me every day on something, on a decision that I've made? How would you feel at work if your boss was micromanaging you? You know what I mean? Like, you have to look at it from that standpoint. The objective is peace now. You know what I'm saying? All that chaotic shit that we did in our late teens and early 20s, that shit is passe now. You know what I mean? That shit is passe. The objective is to have fucking peace. And literally have peace while you're fucking. You know what I mean? So, like, the objective is to have peace. How peaceful is it that we're challenging each other every fucking day about who's going to lead, making a decision where we're going to eat and all this other shit? No. This is what we're going to do. I'm going to lead. I'm going to take into account what you, the things that are of interest to you, but ultimately I'm going to have final say so in that, because I'm the one that's going to have to take the hit when shit goes south anyway. So it might as well be on my fucking plan. You know what I mean? You are a part of it. I'm not greater than you by any means. What I'm saying is that part of this plan, as far as me leading, and you there as well, obviously giving your inputs on things, you know what I mean? But understanding it is my position to take, because you know what it's like to run the shit by yourself. That shit is strenuous. It is taxing on the brain. It is taxing on the mind. It is taxing on your emotions. So if anybody understands, it's the woman that's used to doing everything, but then you finally get a man in here that's able to relieve some of that stress, that suffering that you've been enduring, you know what I'm saying? Because you were a single mom, whether you just been that person in the family that's like the matriarch, whatever it is. So now you have a situation where I don't have to think as much on this, because I can trust that he's going to lead. You know what I mean? So like, so I go back to this whole thought of like, what's more important? You know what I mean? Like chemistry or compatibility. I still stand by, if I had to choose one, I'd say compatibility, because that's the long-term aspect of it. You know what I mean? Long-term aspect of it. I guess you can teach someone how to please you on an intimate level. I think more so man to woman could do so. I don't necessarily believe that a woman could teach a man how to love her in an intimate level. I believe you have to come in kind of like with that, because I personally don't want to be told what to do while I'm inside you anyway, tearing your ass down. Why? Fuck no. Like, I equate that to leading there. You know what I mean? I equate that shit to leading as well. But when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to like compatibility, how are we compatible? Are we able to weather storms? Are we able to have communication without our inner children coming out? Are we able to sit in silence? Are we able to just take whatever comes forth? Am I able to manage her emotions when she gets erratic? Am I able to stay stoic in that moment, or is this personality too erratic for me to do so? And somebody else, it might be a better fit. You just never know, man. There's nothing to take personal. It's just honestly having an honest conversation with yourself. Am I compatible with this person? Do we just have chemistry? You know what I'm saying? And then understanding what it means to have chemistry. And do we have this type of chemistry? Not just in the sexual standpoint, but we just really, really get along. Like, a lot of times women that tend to operate in their masculine, they make very great friends. You know what I'm saying? They tend to like, because it's almost like one of the guys, and it's nothing personal, but when you take on masculine traits, you become like, you know what I'm saying? You can be like one of the guys. But my understanding is, like myself, looking for, again, it would be the feminine. You know what I mean? That's where it would be compatible to me. You know what I mean? Because I would say when it comes to chemistry, both men and women, regardless if you operate in your feminine or your masculine, they love sex, you know what I'm saying, or having, enjoyment of sex. But as far as like understanding the roles to ensure peace and tranquility within a life, not everybody is willing to play that role, man. Like they want like somebody's not comfortable with their role, like a situation where, take for instance a woman who's used to running things in her marriage and her family and shit like that. As long as that husband is okay with following whatever order she has him to do, whatever like man shit she wants him to do, all right, I need you to build walls, whatever, as long as he'll like, fix this project, what have you, being taken there, if he's okay with that, everything's cool. But when he decides that I don't feel like a man and I'm not gonna have you tell me what to do, now what the fuck happens? Rams, they clash and shit like that. And same goes on the other side, where you have this woman who's used to being by herself, or used to being in relationships where she's the one that came up with all the ideas and she's leading, she's got kids, you know what I'm saying? She's a boss at work and things like that. And now this man comes in here and he's carrying himself like he's gonna run every fucking thing. I'm so used to being the person that is running shit, it's hard to turn this shit off. You know what I mean? But for a man who wants to lead and wants his woman to operate in her feminine, it's going to be an issue. It's going to become an issue. So there you have a clash there, because one person is not essentially okay with their role. They're not used to it. It makes them uncomfortable because there's this fear that something's going to fuck up, because I'm so used to the males that I've had in previous time fuck up when they've been in position of leadership, or I never saw a man like you. I never seen a man lead and shit like that. You know what I mean? And it can be quite challenging. It definitely can be quite challenging, but constantly you see the clashing. So how are we going to manage such? You're going to end up in what? Marriage counseling. And no matter amount of counseling that you attend, you cannot negotiate genuine burning desire, man. And every woman has that one. There's this moment in life where a woman meets a man that she just feels she's found that masculine energy that she trusts, right? And everything else prior to that is bullshit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, what was I doing before type thing. But when she finds that energy, that masculine energy, there's not a thing that she won't do for him. She will follow him into whatever. She trusts him that much to lead. And hopefully every woman, you know what I'm saying, gets to that point in their life to where they find that level of trust in male leadership. And then for the opposite, for a man to come across a woman, you know what I'm saying, that trusts herself enough to operate in her feminine, and she cares, and she, she just looks out for you. She has that genuine burning desire, right? And because that's the only way, man. Like all that other shit, like a woman's really not feeling you like that, and she just she's like, she kind of like you. You know the difference. You definitely know the difference of a woman that like kind of like you versus that woman that's willing to, she's willing to go through it with you. And you have to separate that. You know what I'm saying? You got to be willing to walk away from the ones that aren't necessarily for you. You know what I'm saying? There's women that are for you, and there's women that are for what you have. You know what I'm saying? And resources. And don't get me wrong, resources matter regardless. You know what I mean? Because you got to think survival instincts of a woman. It's been going on since the beginning of time. So, and that's just part of hypergamy. You know what I mean? So any man that doesn't understand hypergamy, I recommend you look that up. You know what I'm saying? If you're watching this, and after that, understanding what hypergamy means, and to not get mad at a woman for operating off of hypergamy. That is what is within her to do. You know what I'm saying? It is a survival instinct. You know what I mean? But with with that being said, that compatibility, there must be a polar balance, a polar opposite balance. You know what I'm saying? You have someone who operates in their masculine and somebody who operates in their feminine. I can only speak on what that works between, like I said, man and woman. I'm not here to speak on man and man, female and female, whatever that works. I've seen situations and listened to friends who, you know, who are lesbian, who are gay, that speak on like we kind of swap. You know what I'm saying? And for perhaps maybe that works for you. As for me, in a situation with me, I'm going to lead, and I'm going to go down on my shield. Whether that's ego, whatever you want to call it, I'm going to be the one to lead this situation. And if I go down with mistakes, then fuck it. That's just what it's going to be. But I hope that I was able to carry out my mission as far as explaining the difference between chemistry and compatibility. I feel like I talk more about compatibility than chemistry. I feel like chemistry is something that it's just something that you just feel. It's an energy. It's an energy that you feel. You know what I'm saying? Like energy and chemistry, like I think go hand in hand. You know what I'm saying? You can just feel that. I think compatibility is something in a sense of the ability to work well together as a team on a long-term scheme. You know what I mean? And everybody understanding their role and all that shit. But chemistry, I think, is something that comes a lot more natural. You know what I mean? I believe that you also can just naturally be compatible with somebody you come across, and like they're the opposite of you. You know what I'm saying? It just works out. I'll say like, hell, even from friendship standpoint, like me and my best friend, there are a lot of things that we do differently, but there's nothing that we won't do for one another as far as being there for one another. And I'm grateful to have that in him. You know what I mean? And even you know what I'm saying, like to have that in him. So yeah, that's pretty much what I got for chemistry as well as compatibility. If I had to choose between the two, I would say that compatibility would be what would be more important to me, and keeping that, you know, and definitely keeping that in mind when engaging with you know, as you go through dating. So that's pretty much it for this episode. I know it was a lot talked about off the dome. Like literally nothing written down, just whatever spews off the mind. So any issues with it, you know what I'm saying, reach out to me. You know, obviously we could talk about it off air, offline, whatever you want to call it, if anyone wants to engage more into it. But it's Romy Mac, and I'm out. Good night, kids.